welcome Celeste.
Buonasera. I'm going to use my Italian today a little bit, what little I know. I'm very happy to be here with everybody in the reunion in honor of my father. And I have some pretty pictures of Italy, and I also have some nice pictures of things that my dad and I got a chance to do together. Here we were in Oshkosh in 2006 at the air show, and I know that there's a lot of folks here that may have been to that famous air show. We got to see the warbirds that day. Here we are in the being aimed at by one of the P-51s. We got a chance to go see the commemorative Air Force B-29 in Lexington last summer. That's Fifi. Has anybody seen Fifi?
Yes.
Yeah. And here we are, you know, goofing off at the tail. My dad was a tail gunner on the B-24, so that was a fun day. So today, I'm going to tell you about when I was in Italy in November 2015, and then we're going to be remembering Italy when you guys were there, and I'm going to tell you some stories about my father, and I'm going to tell you some stories about his best buddy, Marvin Nicholson. And I'm going to tell you about my trip to Croatia, which is coming up in about a week and a half. So, here's my dad, and you saw him earlier in the panel discussion. Wave, Dad. Yeah, he's the guy in the yellow shirt down here. And this is his best buddy, Marvin Nicholson. Both of them grew up in Lexington, Kentucky. They went to high school together, and Bill was with the 376th 512 Bomb Squadron. He was the tail turret, and Marvin was 485th in the 830th Squadron, and he was in the ball turret. So, over on the right side where you see Puglia, that's the province of Italy where I did a cycling trip. So we flew into Bari and we cycled all the way down past Lecce. And then we ended up renting a car in Lecce and driving to San Pancrazio, the airfield where the 376 was. I'm not going to do that, it's too much fun. So, and then we drove to Venosa, where the 485th was, and then we finished our vacation over in the Amalfi Coast. So if you follow the red line, you could see from Lecce, we drove to San Pancrazio, then it was about a 3.5-hour drive the next day to Venosa, and then we explored the airfield there, and then we continued on and went to Ravello and Sant'Agata, and eventually left Naples. So I have some beautiful pictures of Italy. I'm going to buzz through them because I only have 20 minutes, and I'm trying to keep track of my time here. So this is where we started our cycling. It's Savaletri, it's south of Bari, and it's really quite a beautiful part of Italy. I was surprised at how tropical it was. You can see the, you know, the palm trees. I didn't expect to see that. And this was our first day cycling. Look at this field. Cabbage with 800-year-old olive trees dotted along the field. Here's me on my bicycle in a little town called Monopoli. I'm looking across to the Adriatic and my gorgeous husband. And guess who ate cabbage that night? I had it stewed with garlic and chestnuts, okay? And they had this wonderful crusty bread with it. It was delicious. The next day we went to this little town called Alberobello. And it's a very interesting town. They have, I'm going to read about the people who were the inhabitants there. They came from Turkey many years ago with the knowledge of building these structures with conical roofs without mortar. And they lived there. It's a beautiful little town, and it's a tourist attraction, and so we rode our bikes through there, and we got a tour. Our Italian tourist guide was named Mimo, and he knew we were Americans, and he had a special treat for us. You can get a closer look up here of the stones stacked up without mortar. And the treat that he had was very touching. He unfurled a flour sack from 70 years ago in gratitude for the Americans who helped the starving Italians at that time, because this was a donated sack of flour to people in Alberobello. And he saved that flour sack, and whenever the Americans have come to visit Alberobello, he shows them, and they're thankful today. And in fact, every April 15th, Aprile 25, or what the Italians say, it's Festa della Liberazione, and that is their time. It's a national holiday, and they celebrate the end of the 20 years of the dictatorship and the 5 years of war in Italy. It remembers the Italians who fought against the Nazis and Mussolini's troops, and it's celebrated every year, April 25th. And it's the day that in 1945 the Allied troops liberated Italy. They have flag waving and marching bands and music concerts and food festivals and political rallies, and all kinds of celebrations take place in Italy. So they're very, very thankful for the Allies, and they celebrate every year. These are just some lovely shots while we were on our bicycle. Literally, this was on the right-hand side of the street, this kind of green grass. Remember, this is November, so the fields were already cultivated and harvested. And then I turned to the left, and here's this red clay. And they had just tilled that field. We're going to talk more about red clay when we get to Venosa. Olive groves. I read somewhere it was 40 million olive trees in Puglia, Italy. It's amazing. And we got a chance to drink some really good red wine. This town, Santa Cesarea Terme, was one of the towns that we rode our bicycles through. It's right on the Adriatic, and it's very interesting. Recently I read that Santa Cesarea was one of the rest and recuperation places for the airmen in the 15th Air Force. Has anybody been here to Santa Cesarea? My dad went to Rome for his R&R, but I just recently learned that. So do you see that watchtower on the right side of the slide? That's kind of an ancient structure. They used to build fires in there so that they would warn people up and down the coast of pirates or enemies. We went right down to that watchtower with our bicycles, and now I'm looking into the pretty Adriatic. And then we rode up a hill, and our tour guides had a wonderful picnic lunch for us. And then we rode up a hill, and we saw a German bunker. So there's a lot of signs of the war all throughout these areas of Italy that are farmland, really, but you'll come across something like this. And we saw some more. This is we rode our bikes to the next hotel that we were staying at, and here's another German bunker right by the driveway. A little bit closer up here. So the signs of Italy are signs of the war are all about Italy. So we ended up in Lecce with our bicycles. We said goodbye to all of our cycling friends, and they flew away. We rented a car and continued our trip for another week. I want to tell a little story about the car that we rented. We had a little tiny Fiat, okay, that we had reservations for. And we went to the Hertz place, and they said, no more Fiats, sorry. Would an Alfa Romeo do? And my husband said, awesome. So here he is with our map of Puglia, and we took off, and a half hour later we're coming into San Pancrazio, and that is where the airbase was, you know, in 1944, where my dad spent his time there. It was a very overcast day that day. It didn't rain on us, but it was pretty cloudy in a sleepy little town. And we came in from the right-hand side, and we grabbed a quick cup of espresso, and then we went out again to the airbase, following that road. And when the Google map said, "You're there," I saw this structure. And the airmen out here might realize too that this red and white checkered pattern is kind of an international symbol of airfields. So we knew we were there. And at that point, I did a Google Earth thing. Can you see in the upper corner the tower? That's the red and white checkered tower for your you know, orientation here. And we parked, you know, maybe, Jonathan, I could try that thing. I'm going to try to point here. I thought maybe it would be too technical for me. Just push this. Oh, great, okay. So here's the red and white checkered tower. We parked the Alfa Romeo right here, and I climbed over a metal fence. Nobody was around, it was deserted, and we walked down this road here. And so notice this triangular shape. You'll see that closer up here. And then this rectangular building structures here, that's where we walked all the way around. So that's what you'll be seeing next. Well, actually you're going to see from 1945. This is where I thought maybe we were from the reading that I had done. Can you see these archways here? Okay, this was the operations office in 1945 for the bomb squadron 512. That's the group that my father was with. The airmen lived in tents around this building here. And this is a closer up 1945. Notice this arch. So as I walked down this gravel road, I approached that white building, and once I got past the tree line, I saw those arches. And I was pretty convinced that this was the remnants of this farm field and this structure that the 512th inhabited at the time when the air base was there. So I walked all the way around, and here's another arch, another arch. See the stairs here leading up, which led me to believe that there was the second level up here, which is what we saw in 1945. I walking along the back now. See this window here? I stood on this little block, and I pushed my camera inside those bars, and I got this inside. I don't know if anybody from 376 recognizes this, but I think we were at the 512 Squadron Operations building here. This is along the back wall. Again, see this? I walked all the way around at this point so you can see the red and white checkered tower. A section of the old wall here, and then a section of a newer wall here. So I'm almost all the way around. I'm at the very final corner. And again, evidence of this blocked in, bricked in archway. Now, there's a book called the Liberando's book that is the 376 historical document, and it's really an amazing book. I'm going to read a little notation from that. And there was a visitor who went to the 376 San Pancrazio base in 1976, and this is what they noted in the book. The main arched entrance had been sealed with stone, and the building was whitewashed. So I'm kind of convinced that I was at the right place. there was also sort of this tower